Hello, welcome to the Bougie Boardroom, where luxury meets leadership, mentoring for women ready for wealth embodiment, strategy, and soul with sparkle. And today's episode is masculine and feminine energy. What is it really? My name is Laurel Huston. I am the CEO of Reflections Inside and Out. I am also a speaker, mentor, presenter, and retreat facilitator. I am passionate about helping women have financial freedom through their passion, through their pleasure, so that we can actually create a lifestyle, not just make a living. And here is my co-host and business partner, Brianna Anderson.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me on the show. I love your introduction so much, Laurel. So, I'm Brianna Anderson, and I'm so passionate about helping you understand who the heck you are so that you can shift into an identity that really is soul-led instead of experience-led, so that you can really create a life that's aligned to your gifts, to your magic, and to your desires. So, today's episode, like Laurel said, we are going to go into masculine and feminine energy. What is it really? So, Laurel, I'm going to let you answer that question first. What is it really? Will you help us with definitions and how you see this?
Yes, because this is one of those topics that when people talk about it or I listen to other people teach, I kind of get an eye twitch. And the reason being, people who have studied masculine and feminine energy do not confuse the energy of creation that all humans have, both masculine and feminine energy, with gender stereotype, outdated gender stereotype roles and responsibilities. And so when we are talking about masculine and feminine energy, we are not talking about stereotypical, outdated gender roles of this is masculine versus this is femininity. And
Hmm.
a lot of times when people talk about toxic masculinity, they forget that if there's toxic masculinity behaviors, there can also be toxic femininity behaviors. But when it actually
Hmm.
comes to energy, we talk about wounded versus healed or empowered energy because they're not the same thing. When we talk about masculinity and femininity, we're talking about ways that culture and society has described how men and women should behave versus the natural energy of creation, the yin and the yang, the black and the white, the hot and the cold, the opposition of all things in the
Yes.
male in the masculine and feminine energy, which is required for creation energy. And
Mhm.
so that is just to be very clear on this. All humans have masculine energy and feminine energy. And sometimes we show up in it and it's healthy and it's empowered. And sometimes we show up in it and it's wounded and it is unhealed. And the reason that matters is because none of those four energies are bad. They are
Hmm.
just an indicator. And really, they're just saying, hey, this is what your starting point is. This is where it's going to get you. Is that the race you want to finish? Is that the journey you actually want to go on?
Hmm.
And I wasn't going to talk about this later, but it came up in my mind now. So you get it in whatever order it comes in. When we do not accept our wounded energy, our wounded masculine, our wounded feminine, this is when it activates our system when someone else shows up in healed masculine or healed feminine. So
Yes.
we are going to talk about money. We're also going to talk about masculine and feminine. And the reason being is that if you are sitting in healed or wounded, masculine or feminine energy, and someone
Mhm.
shows up in the opposite, they will
Yes.
activate something in your system.
Hmm.
And that's
Hmm.
not good or bad or right or wrong. It's something for you to go, interesting. What is this information telling me?
Yes.
So
Hmm.
I do have, as part of the show notes, we'll just tell you guys right now, because if you're listening and you're wanting to take notes, there will be a link in the show notes to a list of empowered versus disempowered, wounded versus healed, masculine and feminine energy. It is not a full comprehensive list. It is a place for you to start so that
Hmm.
you can say, oh, okay, when I'm in blank energy, I'm either showing up in a wound or I'm showing up in empowered. Oh, and it activated this person I was connecting with, talking to, because they were in this opposite energy. And
Mm-hmm.
this matters for money. This matters for business. This is not just, this matters for intimate relationships. This matters for relationships with yourself. So, and we're going to try and conquer it in 30 minutes, but here we go.
I actually think you're doing amazing at getting people to understand. So I really want to go back to what you said, if that's okay, on really nailing the idea that you said there's four quadrants essentially. And I think when people hear masculine and feminine, they hear gender roles, like you said, like male or female, and that's it. So if you don't mind, do you want to expand on the four quadrants so our listeners are really understanding what you meant by that? So you did say it. I just really thought it was golden nuggets we needed to spend time on.
Absolutely. So there are behaviors and characteristics that we show up in. For example, when someone is in wounded or disempowered masculine energy, male or female,
Mm-hmm.
they become withdrawn. They tend to be lost in their decision-making processes. They engage in more risky behavior. They go through cycles of compliant and then rebellion. They'll
Mm-hmm.
go into insecure pleadings with themselves, their partner, the universe, the God of their understanding. And so these are behaviors that say we're in our wounded masculine. So this
Mm-hmm.
could be in manifestation. We will go into compliance versus rebellion and we'll be like, okay, I'm going into insecure pleading and I'm begging the universe for this thing. And then I'm going to say,
Mm-hmm.
give me an action, and I'm going to take the action. And then if the action doesn't work in the instant I want it to, I'm going to go into rebellion and
Mm-hmm.
self-sabotage. So that's when we're coming from our disempowered masculine. When
Mm-hmm.
we're coming from our disempowered feminine energy, we're very demanding. We chase, we compare, we go into shame cycles. And so when people talk about, if the only thing you can talk about in personal development is all the things you're doing wrong, that's not personal development, that's personal shaming.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
if you are, this is a squirrel, if you are actually into personal development, you should be able to brag about the good things that are happening just as much as you're aware of the lessons you're learning.
Mm-hmm.
But
Absolutely.
feminine energy is actually the healing energy. So, when we are in our wounded feminine, we're in a place that our wounds are showing up, but we're actually taking actions that don't let us heal. We're in comparison instead of collaboration. We're in
Yes.
fix and save instead of support and encourage.
Yes.
So then
Absolutely.
the empowered or healed versions of these energies, empowered masculine in both male and female, show up as freedom seeking, adventure seeking, charismatic, the ability to provide, because providing is not just financial provision.
Yes.
Providing is mental providing and protecting, emotional providing and protecting,
Yes.
spiritual, intellectual, all of those require providing and protecting. So when
Mm.
someone can only provide and protect on the physical form, they're spending a lot of time in their disempowered or wounded masculine, and that's why they can't provide on the emotional level, the spiritual level, the intellectual level.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
When
Yes.
you are in empowered masculine, it's very dynamic. It's
Mm-hmm.
you're competing with yourself. You're always up for a challenge. It's not hustle. It's
Yeah.
structure and
Mm-hmm.
goal orientation. It's focus.
Absolutely.
So masculine energy is very much about the structure and the
Mm.
support.
Mm.
Feminine energy, when it's healed and it's empowered, it's about the nurturing and the nourishment. It's about letting things flow. It's security, it's confidence, it's
Mm-hmm.
bonding.
Mm.
It is, and like I said, feminine energy is the healing energy. And so if you're not healing, the people around you aren't healing, you are in your disempowered feminine. Because
Mm.
anyone in their empowered feminine energy has the ability to heal mentally,
Absolutely.
physically, spiritually, intellectually, socially. That's where healing occurs.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree with all of that. So good.
And pleasure. Got to put that one in there. Feminine energy is all about pleasure.
Yeah, no pleasure, no kidding. So I thank you for re-explaining that because I'm like our listeners really, at least when I was learning this, because what Laurel's not saying is that she is like the expert at this field. If you do not understand how deep this can go, I encourage you guys to reach out to her. She has spent so much of her years mastering this. So, with the four quadrants, I think it's really cool to see that there is a disempowered and empowered, like you said. That actually hits on a lot of what I wanted to bring up. But before I do you have any other like ideas or knowings that you want to tell the audience on what it's not now that we've gone into like, you said it makes your eyes roll back and you twitch a little bit because you're like, I hate listening to people talk about this as you should because you're a master at this. So what are the like top three, like absolutely not, full response, full generator, hell no, like what is it not? So our listeners are like, I'll never listen to anyone again because this is not the truth.
It is not gender specific. And here's what I
Mm.
mean by that. The task doesn't matter. The energy the task is done in matters. So, for instance, any
Mhm.
human can make a meal. They can
Yes.
make that meal out of providing substance, and that meal was created in a masculine energy. They can
Hmm.
make a meal out of nourishment and connection and bonding, and that meal was created in empowered feminine energy. They can
Mm.
also make a meal out of rebellion and call it a cheat day, and that's
Uh-huh.
disempowered masculine. They can
Hmm.
also create a meal in comparison and longing to be improve energy, and that is
Hmm.
disempowered feminine. The task does not matter.
Yeah, right,
Second
right.
thing, neither does appearance. I don't care if you're in head to toe pink and ruffles, you can be a provider.
Absolutely.
You can
Facts.
be in camo with a gun, and if someone gets hurt, you can nurture and care for them in your empowered feminine energy.
Hmm.
So,
Real cool.
gender and appearance have nothing to do with
Hmm.
masculine
Yeah,
and feminine energy. The last thing that it's not a one and done. I made it to the finish line.
yeah. Hmm.
We are constantly traveling in and out of not just masculine and feminine, but the empowered and disempowered. Because the disempowered wounded shows up so that we can heal. It's not
Yeah.
bad, it's not wrong, it's a bruise. And it's saying, hey, remember the other day when you weren't paying attention and you hit your hip on the corner of your desk?
Yeah,
Maybe you
right.
should be more present and you'd stop
Mm-hmm.
hitting your hip on the corner of the desk. Not talking from personal experience or anything here. So when we are in our wound or are disempowered, it is our mind, our body, and our soul asking us to be more present. It's asking
Mm.
us to show up more fully. What it's
Yeah.
not is wrong or bad or something that needs to be fixed. It's
Hmm.
just something that is bringing a new level of awareness and giving us an option to heal or an option to stay. And guess what? This is where I
Hmm.
don't agree with many in the personal development industry. If you choose to stay, that doesn't mean you're wrong. It means you're not ready. And that's okay.
I love that. Everyone who's like listening, stop and write that down. You're not broken. You're just not ready. And I love that because it would stop us from like seeking and chasing dopamine highs that aren't necessarily healthy. So I really love that. So she actually hit on a lot of, thank you for that, Laurel, because I'm like, I actually was just thinking about personal experience because that's where I tend to learn the most, and a lot of you probably do. So I remember there was just so many times in my life where I would be doing a thing and not knowing that the energy in which I did the thing was most important. And it's so life-changing, guys, like so life-changing. I remember like listening to hours and hours of Bob Proctor. You know, you pick your person and you're like, they have everything I want. And it finally dawned on me after putting together what everyone was saying in a really beautiful way. And you have a gift of articulating like how to see visuals with what you're explaining, and it's so awesome. because there was times where I remember thinking to myself, well, feminine energy is just like I just, it's whatever. I just got to trust more and there was no action, right? And you probably see that in a lot of circles you're in.
Hmm.
I see so many females and not bagging on the females, but I know I did this. And so I would just wake up and I'm like, I just want to play today. I just want to go shopping today. I just want to go do the things. And then weeks later, I'd look at my bank account and I'm like, this isn't wealth embodiment, but yeah, I'm being told online to trust more, to be in chaos, to allow more creativity, right? You hear these things and then you're like, well, shit, I don't love the results. This isn't wealth embodiment. And the
Men
reason
do
I
that
think
too.
that yeah, right, right. I'm just like, I'm just going to throw myself out there because I had to change it. Right. And so we leave the structure. And so one of the biggest things I wanted to talk about today with anyone that's in business or,
Mhm.
looking to really embody their wealth for new leadership and how to lead themselves, you have to have a breakthrough. And I'll let you chime into this in a moment too. You have to look at structure differently. So I used to look at structure as a roadblock. Like I didn't want to sit down and do the things because that felt like it was making me less free because it was stopping me in the moment from doing what I wanted to do. So one of the the ways I had to look at this is, am I willing to play the long game? And I think Laurel and I, we talk a lot about that. Like, are you willing to play the long game? And if you're not, it's going to feel like structure's taking your freedom because you're going to have to sit down and spend time in the beautiful energy of quite frankly, carving out creation time, right? And
Mhm.
so when you don't have structure, it can feel like there is a lot to manage, but that's only because you haven't made, quite frankly, decisions to have, I love what you said, protection. And that's such a beautiful word because sometimes we look for our money to protect us, but we're not actually like protecting our schedule first. So there's lots of ways that you can put structure into your life, but I'd love to hear how maybe you worked through that or if you have structures that work for you. But that was one of my biggest breakthroughs with masculine and feminine and seeing that masculine isn't trying to discipline me and force me, like you said, and push and prove. It's saying, because I want you to meet your full potential, we've got to really carve this out. So I'm
Mm.
curious how you feel about that.
Yes. So if you watched the first episode, great. If you haven't, just really quick, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 17 years old. So just shy of 30 years that I have been self-employed.
Yeah.
And I want to speak to what Brianna is speaking with because I have literally helped thousands of
Hmm.
women at this point with their
Yeah.
business, with their money, with their relationships. And what
Yes,
she's saying is the missing piece. Because, yes,
for
if
sure.
you, men and women, if you're in feminine energy, it is flowy, flowy and can be no goey, goey.
Legit. Uh-huh.
But that is a lot of times the spiritual community is like, just relax into it, get into the flow, get into the rhythm. And it's like, yes, that's part of it. But if you
Right.
have flow with no structure, you have a floodplain.
Yep.
And so structure is what actually allows flow without flooding and destruction to occur because structure is support. Structure is
Mm-hmm.
safety. Structure is the thing that actually helps us feel like movement has a direction. And so, structure, whether it's in business, life, or relationships, structure looks like a system, a rhythm.
Hmm.
And this could be a ritual or this could be a routine. I don't pick your word. You just
Yep.
have, but what it is it creates predictability. It create, and so a system is anything from an automated email system that I can spend time and I put all the emails in and I schedule all the emails. And then instead of every single day having to go email my clients, it's
Hmm.
one and something else. My system is putting that into place. It's,
Hmm.
I don't have to now individually collect the money. The system collects and deposits the money for me. I then have another system that tells me where all the money is supposed to go so that
Hmm.
I can flow
Hmm.
without going into without things being damned. So here's where the wounded system and structure looks like control rather
Hmm.
than support. It
Hmm.
looks like you have to do it this way. Something that's happening right now with marketing. It used to be you had to know, you had to do a know, like, and trust. You had to nurture. You had to, it was like this
Yeah.
12-step process you had to take your potential clients through before they would buy from you. And that system is no longer working. Now people are wanting results, they're wanting expertise.
Hmm.
And we buy things from people we don't like all the time if it gets us the results that we want. So the system
Absolutely.
and the structure has changed. But as you were
Hmm.
saying, it's like people use systems all the time without realizing it. So we have an alarm that wakes us up in the morning. That's a system.
Hmm.
And if
Hmm.
you're using your phone, you set that alarm once, you tell it what days you want it to wake you up at what time, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. So you can flow because the task is already done and now the results flow to you.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because
Hmm.
masculine and feminine energy, whenever they are balanced, not necessarily equal, but balanced, something
Hmm.
is created.
Hmm. I love that.
So in business, when you're just on the feminine side and it's all flowy and talking with the universe and I don't want to downplay that because that's super, super important because you can create structure and have nothing flow through it.
Hmm.
You can
Hmm.
have a dried up riverbed.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And so the flow is just as important as the structure, but system structures, routines, rituals. This is Brianna's ritual is more in the morning. Mine is more in the night. If you feel comfortable sharing that, I actually think that would be really beautiful.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so within my nightly ritual, there's a lot
Hmm.
of flow, but I always do it at the same time, which is the structure.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I'd totally love to like talk about that because I'm like, it's so fascinating because if you're like me, whether you're relating to her journey or ours, I think it's really important to know yourself
Mhm.
because then you'll be able to heal. In my experience, I wasn't able to heal my feminine until I understood who I was because I was super consistent in structure. 10 years in corporate taught me that you wake up at 5 a.m. I was like, soup, guys, I was like, I could do that 5 a.m. shit better than most people. Like, wake up, go to the gym, hustle. Like, I know what it's like to grind and to want to be so perfect that you're like, awesome, I just crushed it in cells. And the dopamine is like so delicious. Don't get me wrong. But I was like literally in like what she's talking about, a structure in corporate that's like, we'll pay you really well. You're going to execute your numbers. You can hear as I'm explaining it to you, your nervous systems, I'm hoping are like kind of getting tense because that is what I want you, because this is a podcast to help you embody. And if I talk a certain way, I hope to activate the tightness that's in you because then we can go, okay, cool. So maybe my feminine wants to unwind. But in
Mhm.
order to unwind, she probably wants to feel a rhythm that's more safe or nurturing to her. So they go together. But I had to move from that system. And I remember thinking when I left corporate into the more, human design and into my business, I thought, I actually put all my structure down. So I didn't know this. Okay. This is with healing the pendulum. I put all my structure down. I was adrenal fatigue, burnout, like super exhausted, not happy, super unfulfilled, had no idea how to run a business, just left corporate telling me what to do. Now, what are my structures? And in that process, after healing, I came into homeostasis where I was like, no, that structure was really, really really good. The way I was approaching it was really, really not good. So I just want to say to any listener on this call, whether it's a routine that feels like you don't enjoy it, sometimes we don't enjoy the thing anymore, not because the thing isn't what we're in love with. It's the way we're approaching it that's dying, not the thing. So I remember I used to stop going to the gym altogether because I'm like, F that. I hate that. I don't want to force my body, hate my body, push my body, right? Winded masculine. But
Mhm.
then I'm like, but I really love it because I feel like so good when I do it. So I actually didn't realize you have to come to a point where you're like, I stopped doing that, not because the gym was the problem or the corporate was the problem, but my approach to the circumstance was absolutely the problem. And so now, fast forward to answer Laurel's question, I have a morning ritual where I literally wake up naturally. And when I do, I'm the first thing I do is I go into my meditation space and I go into my feminine. But like she said, I'm definitely in a time structure. So I wake up, I get my lemon water, and then I go right into meditation. Inside of that meditation, I know as soon as I leave meditation, I'm going to get ready for the day, and I've already got my 6 things planned out from the night before. So that might sound like a lot of work to some of you, and that's okay. Like Laurel said, her structure, her routine, her rhythm is at night because she knows herself. I know myself about, evening, I'm like, I'm turning off. I did all the things. So you have to really look at like where it supports you. And I think that's a beautiful segue into like devotion. I really wanted to talk about devotion because again, when I was trying to discipline myself to be balanced and feminine and masculine, it was like, hey, I'm going to discipline myself to not just know a chart or be this or that. It never worked because it was a trick. It was like, okay, if I shame myself, like she's saying, I'm not going to actually show up the way I want to. But if I'm devoted to the things that genuinely feed and nurture my soul, my feminine, she's going to be on board for waking up at that structured time because she knows what she's getting. She doesn't like skip her sleep because she thinks she has to. She skips her sleep because she knows that when she's awake, she's just as nurtured, right? So you're not actually in a trade as much as you're like, oh, this feeds both of us and both of us can win, which is the masculine and the feminine. So Laura, I'd love to hear if you want to share, if you want to open that door, what does your night sh ritual look like for you?
Oh, I would love to because it's a very different perspective. And I need to say this first because one of the things that kind of motivated me, I guess, into learning about masculine and feminine energy was that I had really been into, I was part of an MLM and they were all about personal development and they had us read a very famous book about how to start your day
Uh,
and then a second book about how to 10x your results and it was all about
yes.
this push, discipline, do more, do more, do more, do more. And all of a sudden I realized all of those books about wake up at the crack of dawn, work your ass off, and then one day eventually you'll like your results were all written by men. Men
Uh,
who did not have a nursing newborn baby in their arms.
facts.
So there was this moment where my baby had woken up at 3:30. We nursed. It takes about a half hour. It's 4 o'clock. I'm crawling back into my bed, one eye open, one eye closed. And I know that my 5 o'clock alarm is going to go off in less than an hour. And
Mm,
am I disciplined enough
mm,
to get up and not honor my body and not honor my sleep patterns? But that in that moment, I'm laying in bed and I'm crying. I'm just sobbing that I know my alarm is about to go off and I don't have enough time to go through a 90-minute sleep cycle. So then I'm actually gonna be more tired if I do fall asleep, kind of thing.
yeah,
And I
right.
went, I am so tired of, I need personal development from a woman for a woman
Amen.
because not every woman wants to wake up every single day at the same time, depending on where she is at in her personal cycles.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I have to say that because that is what made me go, when do I want to wake up?
Right. Choice.
So for a short time, well, it was about 5 years, I was homeschooling my kids. And so we did not have an alarm go off in the morning in our home. And I naturally woke up constantly and consistently at 7:20, like 21, 22. Like it was within a minute of each other. My natural rhythm was to wake up closer to 7:30 than 5 o'clock. And so I was like, oh, I do not want to wake up early. I also don't want to sleep until 10, but I
Yeah.
don't like to be awake before the sun comes up. I don't.
I love
And
it.
so there are things I do in the morning, but they're more like hygiene practices than
Yeah.
than ritual practices. So at night, it is very important to me, as a family. It's my husband, me, and three kids. We all stretch together. We do a 15-minute full body stretch.
Mm.
We do a meditation and sound bath together. We turn all electronics, no screens are on. And then we listen to, right now we're listening to more of like fun books, but every once in a while we'll listen to like a personal development goal setting book.
Have fun.
And then we go to bed, or
I
I
love.
send my kids to bed. And then once my kids are in bed, I find water. I drink water, I bathe in water. And
Yes.
it's like, don't bug me for the next 15, 20 minutes. And it's not a hygiene bath. It's a, I'm just going to sit here and do nothing bath. It's
Hmm.
a, I'm going to let my entire nervous system get into a really, really beautiful place
Hmm.
because self-care is not the same thing as soul care.
That's true.
And so for me, why my ritual, I put more intention at night is
Hmm.
because my body and my rhythms really do enjoy the night and the dark and the moon. So that's when I do my big awareness. Like that's when I let my mind open and I'm not journaling about my emotions. I'm journaling about my next great whatever. That's when inspiration, that's when I do my meditations. And so Brianna and I literally have a similar ritual at the exact opposite time
Opposite.
of the day.
Yes.
So that is where the flow and the structure come together, that we both have a structure that we follow, but it's our own personal flow.
Mm-hmm. So I hear what you're saying. If we can just tell our listeners this, if you're listening, it feels really important to decide the embodiment piece, right? Like you're here to embody this, not just to listen to this, and we want people to change their lives. So we're going to ask you the question, what are you going to do today to discover your feminine and your masculine flow? And it can come as simple as asking a question, right? Like what feels really nurturing to me? I have a rule. My rule is always if you're going to be disciplined, and I actually think discipline is amazing. I think we both are saying the same thing, not
Absolutely.
from the energy of hustle Western culture. That's an F no. But my rule of thumb is like enrichment. If you will discipline your life to enrichment,
Mhm.
we are both so set on like if it enriches your life and it enriches your soul, commit to it, dude. Like commit to it and create structure around that. Is there maybe one last question you would have them journal before we wrap up this podcast?
Um, so the question I would ask is, when do I feel the most alive?
Mm,
Because for some people, it may be on your lunch break that you want to do your journaling and you're disconnecting, and you may feel the most alive in the middle of your day, not early morning, not late at night. And
hmm
so ask yourself, when do I feel the most connected? When do I feel the most alive? And that's when you can take and create structure and ritual for yourself that meets your needs, that actually feeds your soul. Because when you were talking about devotion, something that we've had a discussion about, but I think is really important to, when you're devoted to something, there is no have to energy.
Mm,
There's I get to, I am excited to, I can't wait to energy.
yes.
And that devotion versus discipline are both needed and necessary.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
And so when you are looking at this intention and you are journaling, the question for me would be, when do I feel the most alive? And how can I utilize that for my benefit?
I love that. How to use it for yourself.
Mhm.
Heck yes. That feels so, so good. I hope you guys feel so enriched. Like, if anything, you just learned that every one of us have masculine and feminine energy. And we're going to invite you to step into our Legacy and Lace event because that is literally the embodiment of wealth inside of the masculine and feminine structure. Wouldn't you agree? So
Absolutely.
we're gonna actually have that happening on January 15th, 16th, and 17th, 2026. So we're going to ask you to step into that, come create with us. And like she said, we'll have a show note where you have the masculine and the feminine chart. And I'm just feeling so grateful for all of you guys that are here today. Is there anything else you'd like to wrap up and say?
Yes, just a quick reminder that for those who are subscribed to our paid version, we have last week's meditation, and then this week we are going to be doing a marrying the masculine and the feminine meditation. So you will be able to also find a link to that in our show notes if you are wanting to subscribe to that. And
Yeah.
you already matter.
hmm
You already are, you are not broken. You do not
hmm
need to be saved. You are healing. You are waking up. You have the ability to be in the empowered, disempowered, masculine, and feminine. And if you're not ready, that doesn't mean you're wrong. The time will come when you will take the action. And we love you.
We love you. Bye, guys.